So let's start off with an overview of your creative process and how you used your selected practitioner to inform your own process.
Okay, so I chose to do the text one. So I was like researching loads of spoken word poetry things on like YouTube and everything. But all of them like didn't have music, and I thought I wanted music behind it because otherwise that would be way too hard. So then I found ones that had like too much music, and then it didn't really make sense because it wouldn't have showed the actual text well enough. So then I wanted to do text because I've never really done it before. I've done it once, but it wasn't the best. So I wanted to expand my knowledge on that really. And I chose to do Deviate because when I was like Googling all of them, it said that theirs was based on like real human relationships and like human desires and stuff. So I thought that would work well with spoken word in general because spoken word's normally like passionate and things. So then I chose the spoken word of toxic love because then that also works with deviates like real human relationships and stuff. So then yeah, it's like just worked well with each other, and then it had quieter background music. So
Super.
I thought
So
that
let's
was
think
best.
about your process of making the steps or developing the characters. So, how did you go about doing that? And did you use anything from Deviate like tasks or approaches to interacting with the text, etc.?
I did like so I like when I was researching it all, I was trying to find like what Deviate's actual process was, but I couldn't really find that much on it. So I just went like more with the idea of like I'd show like the different things that I could find when I was Googling about like the real human relationships and stuff like that. Because it said that Deviates like in their guide to choreography thing, they wanted to do like physically demanding and like risky movements, but then also like small gesture ones. So then I tried to include both of them, and I did like movements where Cam and Charlie were both like hugging, but then Cam was like the toxic one in the relationship. So then they were both hugging, and then like the next second he was like moving away and pushing Charlie, or was doing like on the floor. They all like put their hands away from each other and then back together, and then Charlie would reach him and then away. So it was like doing like the small gesture movements, like in which one was it now? DV8 had a piece where it was like with the table, and then it was all like hand movements. Um, so it was just things like that, but then also the part of where they said like the physically demanding movement. So I tried to include like a few lifts, but obviously with the time restriction, there wasn't enough time to like learn that good of lifts. So there was other ones that I wanted to include that I couldn't, but I did include a few lifts for that part of it and to show like the toxicity of the relationship because I did some at the start and then some at the end to show that it like carries on and stuff.
Okay, so your piece was dealing with about this changing relationship, and it
Yeah,
made use of lifts, and it made use of particular kinds of motifs and gestures. How
yeah.
did it make use of the text itself? What was the actual relationship of each movement to the text?
Well, it's like I picked out like certain words like in the text and stuff. So like when there was parts, it was like quieter in the music, but then the text was like saying things that were more meaningful. Like it was like there was one part and it said like he said he's sorry. So then like I didn't choose to put movements into that. Like I just chose to do like little like heads and stuff. So then like Charlie looked at Cam, and then like it was just more subtle movements to so you could actually listen to the text. But like there was different points I picked out that like linked with the text, and then there was different points that only linked with the music behind it. So it wasn't all like just one part, like one thing.
Okay, so you worked in two ways with it essentially. One was where there was a direct relationship, and one where it relates to the music. Did you edit and create your own music and text? Where did you find these?
No, I just found this one on YouTube because I did find a different spoken word. I can't remember what it was about because it was at the start. But I was trying to edit music behind it and it just didn't sound right. So I just found one with music behind it and then like cropped some parts out of the music that didn't like were just boring and didn't have the right text in and stuff. And then cropped the end off and stuff. But I couldn't find any one that I thought was better than this one to do, I think.
Okay. So we've spoken a little bit about your process, your use of music and text and your relationship to those. So let's talk about your relationship to your dances. So how did you create the actual movements? So you gave them tasks. Did you do improvisation? Did you create your own steps? And when you did all of these three things, which of the three approaches really worked best for your choreographic idea and why?
Okay. I think like because we did all of them, but then obviously there were times when some people weren't in, so it would just be like me and Cam in the studio, like both improvising and both seeing which like ideas like would fit well, and then thinking of like what Charlie might have done in that situation as well. Um, and then we also did like I would make up movements before I come into the studio. But then sometimes when I did that, because I'd been making them up at home, so then when I'd come into the studio to do it, like teaching it to them, it wouldn't really work because I'd thought of it differently to how it would have looked in the actual space. Um, so I mostly just did like a mixture of those two things. So it's like I'd teach them something, but then if one move didn't fit, they'd like improvise a bit to see what would work better. And then if like nothing was coming to them that I thought looked well, I would like go away and just leave that one move and then come back the next lesson and be like, this would fit well at this point. And yeah.
Okay. So if we're thinking then about what's the single thing that you'll take away from this whole process, what's the most important thing you've learned or discovered about yourself or your creative process?
I think it was really interesting doing it about spoken word because I've literally done it once before in high school. So it wasn't like something I had loads of knowledge on. So it was good to like watch loads of other pieces on dances with spoken word and using text and all the gestural movements that Deviate do and everything because I've never really been that interested in it before, but now like I've actually looked into it, it really is. And I've never really choreographed a duet before as well. So that was like hard, but it was really good to do because I've only ever done like either solos just for myself or like group pieces where there's a lot of people in the group, which I feel is easier because then you can like switch the focuses of like one person to like the other people. Um, so you don't have to just choreograph interesting movements for that one person the whole time. But I do think it was good to do a duet because it feels more like intimate and stuff on stage because there's only like those two people in it. But yeah.
Fabulous. And the very last question is, if you could change one thing about your piece, what would it be and why?
I would have wanted to put like more challenging movements in it, like Deviate do. Um, but I don't think it would have worked with the time limit and everything. But it would have, if I did, it would have helped to improve like portraying the physical side of like the toxic relationship and stuff like that. Um, because I did want to put one in where they did like Charlie did a backflip over, well, not over him, but like as a lift, she like was flipped backwards over Cam, and we tried it, and it looked good, but it just wasn't going to get clean in time. So that would have been annoying. I would have liked to include more of them. And I don't know if I physically was better at editing music. I would have liked to make the music less repetitive behind the spoken word, because it was the best one I could find at that point. But if I could have edited it myself, I could have probably made the music behind it less repetitive and make it more creative. I don't know. I think it would have been a lot better if I could have changed certain points in the music, definitely. But
Fabulous.
yeah.
Brilliant. Is there anything else you'd like to add?
No, I don't think so.
Super.